Sharmita, all eyes, all ears on you. Over to you.
So slow death. Death is inevitable. If you are born, you will die. Some people like to bury themselves in their own life. Some choose a quick death like suicide. And some, choose slow death. But you know what? Each human being dies partially in their life. It happens to each person in their lifetime. I was this young, bubbly girl, full of energy, a tomboy, uh, the apple of the eye of my mother and father. I was the only child. I lost my mom to cancer at the age of 16. The doctors had told 6.5 months, but she lasted for 4 years. And she told me, don't worry, you'll grow up by the time I leave. She was 16 when I died. And very strangely, just 11 months after that, my father passed away with alcoholism and cirrhosis of liver. So vividly, I remember standing in front of that washroom, a sink full of blood, aghast. And the final moments that I was standing in front of the ICU of PGI, and with each electric shock that they were giving him, his life was ebbing and mine stood still. For about 30 years, probably that young girl kept standing in front of the ICU in the PGI. Every decision of my life was based on that. His last breath charted a course for me, and I moved along. Yes, there were layers in my life where I managed to open the cracks. There were a few, there was a little light coming in. But till very recently, I realized that I was still in that box. I needed to open that box up. I needed to find out why. That was this deep, burning question within me, that why? I blamed him for everything in my life, everything not happening, every unwise decision, every mishap. My position in the family, how the family members treated me, how society treated me, how exposed I was, how many people pitied me, how many wanted to take advantage. He was the reason. I was at that point of hating him. My mom had no choice. She wanted to live. And this man, my father, who was supposed to protect me, just chose to die. Why? He was such a handsome man. He was a colonel in the army. He was financially well off. We had such a wonderful home. He had amazing taste, from clothes to books to fishing to curios to art, literature, stamps, architecture. Why? Why did he slowly kill himself? And you know what? He killed a part of me along. In the year 2007, I chose to change and redirect this anger. It was hurting me. I chose to forgive. I chose to let go. I began to pray. I moved on. The anger and the anguish was over. Years of healing had helped me, but there were certain remnants in my cellular memory. I did not see things from his point of view. I still really deep down hadn't forgiven him. My motto was out of sight, out of mind. It generally works. You put these memories aside, but now and then they pop out, and then you heal, then you deal, and then you let go. You try and delete slowly, but still there are certain things that just remain there. I realized that I need to have some deeper understandings of things. Why? I realized that there was so much of trauma which each person carries on within themselves. This trauma happens to you when you're very emotional and you're very young. He was the oldest child and he was very brilliant, but he wasn't good in science and academics. His parents could not understand this. They were a family of engineers, scientists. Both his younger brothers were, from esteemed institutions like the IIT. He felt less. He felt unwanted, and he could not share this with his family. He was a very sickly child, and he decided to, get into fitness and health and became a football player. Though he was asthmatic, but still, he still did not get any approval from his family despite playing for the state level. He joined the army and he focused on his personality. He was such a handsome young man with these big mustaches, real colonel of the army. And he had impeccable taste in clothes, had such a fantastic language. He was so immaculately dressed. And then he met my mother. It was kind of a fairy tale romance. They met in a club and they quickly fell in love. She was extremely beautiful and he was this tall, dark, handsome, and they were perfect together. I think they deeply loved each other, but she was an extremely complicated woman. And I think she was not able to fill the void of loneliness in his heart. They were compatible, but she did not get along well with my grandparents. There was nobody to blame here. I think my mother lacked patience and she took things on face value and she could not bend and adjust. And my grandparents were not loving and benevolent. They could not forgive her. My dad slowly became very lonely and I think he was getting distance from her and he had already lost connection with his family. I think that's where the bottle seeped in. Once he had a few drinks, he was very confident, and that lively, vibrant side of his personality really, came out. And when he went to the club or he was in a meeting, he was the center of attention. People listened to him. I think drinking for the first time, he was able to unveil his real self. He mattered. He was heard. Unfortunately, my mother was detected with cancer, as I had told you, and the doctor had given 6.5 months. He took to the bottle like anything. I think he just couldn't manage his loneliness. Um, I think from inside it ate him up, and his family wasn't there. There was no support. There were no friends. He could not share. And I think that 6.5 months carried on for 4.5 years because my mother was extremely strong-willed. And as she had promised me that she is going to live a little longer, my father started drinking day and night. He became an alcoholic. The bottle was his life. My mom died in 1989. And my father, within 6 months, was hospitalized with cirrhosis. And within 11 months, he passed away. A slow death he chose for himself. He had it all, but he gave up without a fight. Why talk of this today? Why was this the most important thing? Because I realized that we all die slowly. It is death of dreams. It is death of desires. It is death of independence. Each human being dies. And when people die a slow death, maybe through alcohol or maybe through drugs, nobody celebrates their life. They're called losers, they're called nobodies. People want to forget their memory. And today I wanted to live his memory, see things from his point of view, and appreciate the wonderful, intelligent, handsome man that he was. We all contributed to his death, his family, for not understanding him, that he needed love and nurturing, and he was different. The social setup. People don't want to be friends with people with mental health, with issues like alcoholism, drugs, or a cancer patient. As soon as you know that your friends are in trouble, you run away because you're dealing with so much of anger, anguish, troubles in your own life. You don't want another added baggage in your life. I had no support system. My mother's family was supporting her. They were not there for me or my father. I lacked maturity to handle a cancer patient, an alcoholic, and my own sanity. It was a period from 13 years, because on my 13th birthday, we came to know that my mother is going to only live for 6.5 months. And she made a promise that I'm going to live longer. And she lived for 4.5 years, which was like a medical miracle. But those 4.5 years were full of pain and full of anguish, full of treatment, and the balance between my mother's treatment and my father's alcoholism. I think I was going insane. We don't have any handbooks which teach us empathy, which teach us forgiveness, which teach us to see things from other people's perspectives. The intelligent and the sensitive people are the ones who are probably slowly dying, because they're broken from inside. And maybe alcohol or drugs or any kind of abuse is just a cover up for their brokenness. So today I want all of you to sit and think of slow death in your own life, slow death in people in and around you, how these wonderful, vibrant people suddenly, choose to disappear, choose to wilt away. Let's talk a little bit more about mental health. Let's talk about the broken. Let's remove this wall in front of us that we create, covering up our shame. Let's not be ashamed. Let's bring a new world, a new order. Let's give each death a dignity, a purpose. Each death, even by suicide or through drugs or alcoholism, is a life worth living. And let's celebrate their lives. Let's focus on mental health.